So after much fiddling about with the camera, didn't have Delilah wake up then. After much fiddling about with the camera, I think I've got it alright. Let's hope so. I'm sat with a cup of tea, and this is my first sit down video. Delilah's just having a nap over there, so if she wakes up, we'll just deal with that as it comes. I'm feeling quite nervous for this. Since before I started my channel, I knew that I didn't just want to do vlogs. I wanted to do sit down videos, I wanted to connect with my audience, and I wanted to talk about things I was passionate about, that I believed in, that I loved. Mainly around motherhood and parenting, but it could be anything that I feel like talking about at the time, really. So out of that idea was born Manic Mondays, which you are currently tuning to. So every Monday I'm going to film and post a sit down video. They're going to be very informal, so grab a cup of tea or coffee or water or whatever you indulge in and join in with us. I don't know why people are setting fireworks off at this time of day. It's just gone 11 o'clock. Anyway, forget about that. Grab a cup of tea, coffee, whatever you like to drink. Come and sit down and just chat with me. That's what these are going to be about. So it's going to be every Monday, really informal chat basically, and I'm calling them Manic Mondays. If you have any suggestions or anything you'd like me to talk about, let me know, because I'm always willing to open up to other people. But today we're going to be talking about my birth story with Delilah. So Delilah was born on the 9th of June this year, 2019. She was born at 2:33 in the morning, and it was the greatest day of my life. Where to start? So she was born technically 2 days overdue. So my due date was Friday the 7th of June. And my waters broke. I woke up on the Saturday morning thinking, oh, baby still hasn't come, I'm still pregnant, it was my due date yesterday, is this ever going to happen? I generally got to the point I thought I was going to be pregnant for the rest of my life. I knew it was impossible, but it didn't feel impossible at that point. So I woke up and I called my dad and I was like, look, I am fed up, what should I do? This is driving me mad. Ben's at work because he works Saturday mornings. I am bored of just sitting and waiting for a baby to come. So he was like, don't worry Layla, I'll come over, we'll have a coffee and we'll just do something, we'll take your mind off of it. Put the phone down, and literally about 10 minutes later I was on the phone to my friend Alice, FaceTime, and this is about 10 o'clock, half past 10 I think in the morning this was. And I'm on the phone to her and I feel like a trickle down my leg and I'm like, I've wet myself. And I know everyone says that, but I really did. I was like, I wet myself. So I went to the toilet and I was just like, oh, hold on a minute babe. Didn't tell her anything. Went to the toilet and thought, what's going on? So I thought, I'm just going to empty my bladder, so then if it happens again, I know I haven't wet myself. So I went to the toilet, came back in, carried on talking to Alice on FaceTime, and a few minutes later, again, more came out, and I was like, I've just emptied my bladder fully, I've made sure I have, so this surely isn't weak. But I was in such denial, I was like, no, I'm not, this isn't my waters can't be breaking, I've not had any contractions. So I was like, oh, what's going on? So, bear in mind, on the Thursday, I'd had a midwife appointment, and I was already 3 centimetres. So I knew that things were going to start happening soon. Anyway, so after a few minutes I was like, oh, it's happened again. Went to the bathroom again, I put pad in, and it just kept coming. Bit by bit kept coming. So I turned around to Alice and I was like, I think my waters might have broken. She was like, what do you mean you think the waters are broken? What's going on? So I explained to her. I said, I'm going to ring my auntie. My auntie's going to be my birthing partner, and obviously she's had babies, she knows all about this. So I put the phone down to Alice and I called my auntie. My auntie said, yeah, that definitely sounds like your waters have gone or are going. I will let your dad know, because my dad's on my way to my house right now. She was going to let my dad know, I was going to let Ben know and ring the midwife. So that was that. I put the phone down. I was like, alright, okay, I need to ring Ben. And at this point, nothing felt real until Ben's not allowed his mobile phone on at work, so I had to call the shop. And calling the shop, as soon as this phone started ringing, I was like, oh no, this is real. Like, we're going to have a baby, and it could be today. And it was just like, this baby is coming. Oh, I'm getting emotional talking about it. It just suddenly became really real that we were going to have a baby, and that I was ringing Ben up and I was about to change his whole life, telling him this baby's like going to come soon. And even at this point, I didn't even know. I might have just wet myself, but I was pretty sure I hadn't at this point. So yeah, I rang and someone answered the phone. I said, oh, is Ben there please? And obviously they all knew that Ben was waiting on this call. They all knew that, like, his girlfriend was overdue. They were about to have a baby. They were waiting for this. So this poor boy on the other end of the phone, he was like, Ben, it's Layla. And Ben thought, genuinely, he thought they were pranking him. He was like, no it isn't, no it isn't. And I could just hear him in the background like, nah, you're having me on, it's a joke. And when he finally realised that it wasn't a joke, like, you could hear his tone of voice was just like, oh, okay. So anyway, eventually he got on the phone to me. And I was like, right, my waters have gone, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. I've not had any contractions, so there's no need to panic. This is fine. And he was like, well, do you need me to come home? Should I come home? And I was like, no, don't do anything just yet. I need to ring the midwife and I need to speak to them. He was like, okay, I'll wait for your call. I was like, okay, yeah, you just stay at work for now, I'll wait for my call. Anyway, me being me, and I'm like, I'm a first time mum, but I know these things don't happen quickly. This is going to be a while. I haven't even had a contraction yet. This is fine. And I was like super relaxed and calm. So we're having a home birth. So I decide, before I ring the midwife and like inconvenience her, get her to come to my house, I'm gonna do a bit of tidying, a bit of cleaning and put my makeup on. So there's me just like pottering around the house, doing a bit of hoovering, doing a bit of washing up, putting some makeup on. 20 minutes later, like, Ben rings me up like, what's the midwife said? Why didn't you ring me back? What's the midwife said? What's going on? And I was like, oh, I haven't even rang the midwife yet. He was not happy. Let me tell you that. He was not impressed. Ben was like, I have not been able to work. I'm here at work waiting, just literally sat by my phone waiting for you to call. Why haven't you called the midwife? And I was like, because there's no rush. It's fine, I just want to clean up, put some makeup on. And he was like, ring the midwife now. So at this point I knew. I was like, I've got to go. I've got to ring the midwife. So I rang the midwife up and I was like, hey, yeah, I was due yesterday. I think my waters might have gone. I'm due to have a home birth. What should I do? At this point she asked me the colour of my waters. Are they clear? Well, to me, no, they weren't clear. They weren't brown or meconium stained. I knew this even though I was a first time mum. So if you don't know, if you're watching this, meconium's like where the baby's pooed basically, and when your waters go they can worry if there's meconium in your waters because it means the baby's in distress. The baby's floating around in their own poo basically, and it's a high chance of infection. I knew, I've seen my best friend have babies, I've seen babies being born on, like, I've done a lot of research, I know about babies being born, and I knew that these waters were not meconium stained. They weren't green, they weren't brown, they were like the colour of straw, so they were very slightly yellow. When I told the midwife this, on the phone, she said, right, yeah, so if you hadn't have told me your waters were that colour, if you hadn't told me they were clear, we would have just sent a midwife to your house. As you have told me that your waters are not clear and they're a yellowy colour, you need to come to hospital. It's like, great. This is not what I wanted. I wanted to have a coffee with my dad. Still at this time, like, my dad's probably on his way to my house. Bear in mind, it's a drive. It's like a 45-minute drive from his house to my house. So he's like probably still on his way to my house at this point, or just leaving. I just wanted to sit at home, have a coffee with my dad, wait for my contractions to start, chill out, Ben could come home. I wanted my non-medicalised home birth. Well, So she's like, I advise very strongly that you come to the hospital, blah, 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 all this. So I ring Ben up and I'm like, right, she said we need to go to hospital. I don't think we need to, but I'm just going to listen to her. And he was like, okay. So he comes home and I'm like, I'm not rushing. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to have something to eat. I am not rushing this. There is no emergency that we need to rush to the hospital for. I haven't even had a contraction yet. So that's what we did. We took our time. We made sure all our bags were packed. Ben got changed. We had a cup of tea. We made a cup of tea in travel flasks to take with us. And we just took our time. We probably took about half an hour, 40 minutes, all in all. My dad turned up just as we were leaving because we couldn't get hold of him. As he was driving, we couldn't ring him and say, don't come. So my poor dad turned up and we were like, we're going to the hospital. You need to turn around and drive all the way home again. I felt so guilty. It was not what I wanted at all. My poor dad. To this day I feel guilty about that. Like, next time I have a baby, I'm going to invite him over and we're going to have coffee while I'm in labour. Like, that is what we're doing, because to this day I feel so guilty about that. And I hate... That's one bit I do really dislike about it, was that if I look back now, I wish I had have said to that midwife, no, do you know what? I know this is okay. I know that my waters are not got meconium in, and I know that things are fine. Can you just send a midwife to my house, please? Because even if things had have been wrong, if a midwife had have come to my house, she would have known that she would have been able to tell things were wrong, if that makes sense. So we made the trip all the way to Coventry, which is about half an hour from our house, and we went to the hospital. But actually this could have been a good thing, because while we were there, as I still hadn't had any contractions, we were in the waiting room about an hour probably, waiting to be seen. When we got seen, we went into a side room and I sat there, a big birthing ball in there, so I sat on this lovely birthing ball as I'd been sitting on my birthing ball at home. I was just like bouncing a little bit, waiting for the midwife to come in. As soon as the midwife came in, she was like, also, would you like to pop up onto the bed and I'll examine you? And as soon as I stood up off this birthing ball, my waters went, like they gushed out. I was drenched. The midwife was like, oh, well, I can already tell that your waters are clear, like that's fine. Yeah, I think your waters are definitely gone now. I'll examine you anyway. Would you like me to do you a stretch and sweep? So I'd had a stretch and sweep on the Thursday and I was like, yeah, go for it. I still haven't had a contraction, so anything that might get them to start is a bonus. Because if my contractions hadn't started, I would have had to go in the next day for an induction, which was no, I just did not want an induction. That was not part of the plan. So she gave me a stretch and sweep and was like, oh yeah, your baby's got no hair. This was, 2 midwives told me this, right? Oh yeah, you've got a bald baby, your baby's got no hair. Your waters are definitely gone. Yeah, things are moving along. You're at, I think she said I was at 4 centimetres. Pretty sure she said I was at 4 centimetres. You're doing really good. Come back in for your induction tomorrow, things haven't started, but you can go home. I was like, brilliant, yeah, let's get home. My worst fear was I was going to get into hospital, and like looking back, this is crazy because I hadn't even had contraction, but my worst fear was I was going to go into hospital and they were going to be like, you have to stay, you can't have your home birth now, you have to stay here. And like, it's silly, but that is what I thought. If I'm going to hospital in labour, they're not going to let me go. If I turn up to hospital and I'm having a baby, they're not going to let me go home, but obviously they did. And actually the midwife we saw, she was so lovely, and she was like really pro home birth. She was like, I think that's great what you're doing, I'm so pleased for you that your waters are fine and I can send you home, good luck. She was so lovely. So anyway, we went home, and in the car on the way home, this is about, so it's about 2 o'clock now, and in the car on the way home, so just gone 2 o'clock probably, I got my first contraction, and it was very mild and it didn't hurt at all. It was not painful, but I was kind of like, oh Ben, I think this might be something. It was like very tight. Yeah, that was it really. It wasn't really painful, it was just like my belly just went really tight, but it was something I hadn't experienced before. So I was kind of like, oh yeah Ben, I think this might be it. okay, right. Yeah, things are definitely happening, and I was so relieved, like, oh, if things are starting, then I'm not going to have this induction. So yeah, we got home, and then, see, it's only like 4 months ago, and there's missing bits already. We went into town. I think we came and parked at home first. Oh yeah, because I had to get changed. Because, so when my waters went, and I had to, after she examined me, I had to put my wet leggings and knickers back on. Oh no, she gave me some mesh knickers. She gave me some mesh knickers, but I had to put my wet leggings back on and waddle to the car in them. Oh, so I tied my hoodie around my waist so it like hid it just a bit. But yeah, so we came home, I got changed, and then we had a little walk into town, and it was so lovely. We just took a little slow stroll into town, and this was exactly my dream, right? This is all the way from my pregnancy. I was like, when I'm in labour, have a nice leisurely walk around town, we're gonna just relax, and that is what we did. Like, my birth and my labour, while you'll find out in a few minutes, didn't go exactly to plan. It was so perfect for me, and it was such a positive experience, and all the way through my pregnancy I was determined I was going to have a positive birth story. I read all these birth stories, I watched all these positive birth stories on YouTube, and I knew I was going to have a positive birth, and I did. And thinking about it now still makes me beam with happiness, and people think I'm crazy when I say, oh, I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to go through labour and birth and have another baby. Like, it's not even the having the newborn baby thing I want. Like, I can wait for that. I've got Delilah. But I can't wait to have this experience of this again. Like, just the excitement, and then, oh, it was just amazing. And looking back on it, it was just so good. So anyway, going off on a tangent, we went for a little walk around town, we grabbed a coffee from Costa, and then we went for a little walk around the park, and we just chilled out. I started timing my contractions at one point because I was like, well, they're becoming a bit more frequent and they're getting a little bit achy, I'd say. I wouldn't say they were painful, but I was having to sort of stop sometimes because it was difficult to like walk through them. And yeah, so I started timing them. They were coming about, I wish I still had the app, I deleted it, but they were coming maybe every 3 minutes, but not lasting very long. I'd say 3 to 5 minutes, but they weren't lasting very long. And yeah, so I was just walking around the town, got coffee, walked around the park, and I remember at one point we walked past Asda, and near Asda there's, I'll show you it one day on the vlog, I'm sure, there's like bollard things to stop cars driving through certain points. And I just remember leaning over one of these having a contraction, and this lovely woman, bless her, she walked past and she was like, oh, I remember that feeling so well, and I'll never forget that. Every time I walk past that bollard now I'm like, oh, it's my labour post. So yeah, we grabbed a newspaper from in Asda, because my thing was, if I want a newspaper of the day the baby's born to keep for her, so when she's older she can see like the newspaper the day she was born. I thought that'd be really cool. So we went into Asda and walked with newspaper, even though we kind of knew this baby's not going to be born before midnight. We were like, she could be, and if she is, we'd like to have this newspaper. So just for something, we bought that newspaper, and then we came home and I sit and bounced on my board a bit, and all this time I've been like messaging my auntie briefly, like, you don't need to come yet, blah, blah. So she said, oh, shall I come over and bring Zach, who's my cousin? And I was like, yeah, come over, bring Zach with you, that would be nice. About 10 minutes later, I rang her back and I was like, come over, don't bring Zach. These contractions have got a bit more intense, and I feel like, because again it's a 45-minute drive from her house to my house, so she would have to do that and then do it again to take Zach home, and then do it again to come back to me. And I just felt like, while I don't think anything's going to happen very soon, I don't think there's time for all that driving backwards and forwards. Like, don't bring Zach with you. Get my granddad to look after Zach and just come on your own. So that's what she did. She came over. While we were waiting for her to come, me and Ben, we just had like a little bounce on the ball. We had a chat. We talked about how we're going to have a baby and how exciting it was. And I think we must have watched some TV, but I couldn't tell you for the life of me what we watched. I didn't care, to be fair, what was on the TV. And at this point, again, my contractions, I'm still talking through them. I'm still having a nice time. Life's still good. My auntie gets there and we decide to go for another walk. So we go for another little walk and we must be walking for... So she got to my house... She probably got to my house just before 6 o'clock, and we didn't go straight away. We went a little while, like we got to our shoes on and stuff. So we must have left the house at about 6:30. So we got home about 8 o'clock. So we were walking for about an hour and a half, just like slowly walking around the block, walked back into town, walked to Asda because I was like, I want a can of Coke. All through pregnancy, my craving was red Coke, and it had to be out of a can because the cans make the Coke colder. Don't ask. Ben came home with a bottle one day of Coke and I cried. He still says I'm ridiculous, but my excuse was I was pregnant. Anyway, so we walked to Asda, and when we get to Asda I'm like, oh, I need a wee. Bear in mind I'm having contractions, so it takes me like 5 minutes to walk from the front of Asda to the back of Asda where the toilet is, right? And the toilet's locked, it's a disabled toilet. So we walk to the back and we go to the lady on the counter and we say, oh, can we have a key for the toilet please? She's like, yeah, bear with me, I'll go and get it. Anyway, she goes off. I'm stood there like, oh, need a wee, having a contraction. People looking at me like, what's she doing? Weirdest wee dance I've ever seen. No, I was having contractions. She comes back and she's like, oh, I'm really sorry, but the person that has the key for the toilet has gone home and taken it with them. No. I was so annoyed. There was nowhere else to go. Like, this time of night in the middle of town, everywhere's shut. There is nowhere else to go for a wee. So I'm like, it's going to take me. So Asda's about a 10-minute walk from our house, but I'm having contractions every like 3 minutes, and they're starting to last about a minute now, and they're starting to get a little bit more painful. And I'm like, how am I going to get home without weeing myself? But I did it. So anyway, we grabbed a can of Coke, drinking my can of Coke, carrying that, stopping when I needed to stop, timing my contractions. We eventually got home. I went for my wee. I managed to hold it all the way. And then I called my best friend, and because I was there when her babies were born. So I called her at about 8:15, and I was on the phone to her for about 15 minutes. And when it got to about 8:30, I had the biggest contraction I had had. I had this all of a sudden really intense, painful contraction that shocked me. I burst into tears straight away, and it wasn't necessarily the pain. It was the shock. It was like, oh, these have been really quite mild contractions. This has been okay. Now this has taken my breath away. So straight away, I stopped talking to my friend. I was like, I'm gonna go. This is ramping up now. So I went, and we carried on labouring in my living room for a while, bouncing on my ball, walking around. We put some music on. I couldn't remember what point we put music on, but I think we put music on before the midwife got there. So we put some music on, and me, my auntie and Ben were all just chilling in my living room, having a baby. At about... See, I don't remember times too well. I'm sure Lou and Ben remember, maybe not Ben. He's a man, he just remembers we had a baby. I'm sure Lou probably remembers times better than me. But I think it must have been about 9:30 we called the midwife. It must have been about 9:30 we called the midwife to say, can you come? She came, and I think she must have got to me at about just before 10 o'clock. It makes me so annoyed that I can't remember times like perfectly. So she must have got to us. I either rang her at 9 and she got there at 9:30, or I rang her at 9:30 and she got there at 10. All in all, it doesn't really matter, it's not that much different. But she got there anyway, and no. I couldn't stand her. She walked into my house, and bearing in mind, the reason I wanted a home birth was because I wanted to feel in control. I wanted to be in my own home, and rather than people going, do this, do that, do this, do that, I was in my home and I was in control. Now, this midwife made me feel anything but in control of this situation. She walked into my house and straight away she saw my can of Coke on the table. She goes, oh, well, she's not been drinking Coca-Cola, has she? Yes, I have actually. What is the problem with that? No idea. Still don't know to this day what the problem was with me drinking Coca-Cola in my labour, but she wasn't pleased about it for some reason. Then she kept banging on about how I needed to eat. Now, if you've had babies, you will probably know that your body shuts down to anything other than getting a baby out. I did not want to eat. The last thing I could think about was food. I felt sick. I had had morning sickness since 4 weeks pregnant, and I was sick in labour, right? I did not want to eat. I was sick all the way through my pregnancy, and I was feeling sick in labour, and I just didn't want to eat. I wasn't hungry. She was forcing, you need to eat, you need to eat. She goes, if you don't eat, you won't have enough energy to get this baby out. She, you know, like one of them proper forceful, you could tell she'd been a midwife for many years kind of thing. So anyway, she was banging on about eating. Then she decided that she needed to examine me quite quickly after arriving. So she watched my Auntie Lou and Ben put cushions on one end of the sofa for me to lay on. I laid down. It was only after I laid down she went, oh, I need you to lay that end of the sofa actually. Like, are you kidding me? I am here in labour. Like, I don't think she understood I was in labour. Anyway, so we got up, we moved the cushions, I laid the other end of the sofa. Now, this is where things got interesting. As soon as I laid on my back, this contraction, it felt like one long contraction. It felt like they didn't stop. So I got contraction after contraction, like continuously when I was on my back. This midwife decided she was still going to carry on examining me while I was having this horrendous long contraction that was making me cry. She did not take her hand away, and all she said was, oh, you're really not coping, are you? I think your gas and air is not going to be good for you. I think you're going to need to go into hospital. You're really not coping. You're only 3 centimetres. Now, bearing in mind I was also 4 centimetres when I was in the hospital, so don't know what was going on there. Don't know if they measured me differently. I don't know. But I don't trust her. I didn't trust her. So, but I was coping. In fact, I was doing fantastically. If I say so myself, I think I was doing pretty well. Whether I was 3 centimetres, 4 centimetres, no matter what I was, I think I was doing pretty well. I was crying when I was laying on my back and having these back-to-back contractions, but as soon as I stood up, they went, and I stopped crying. And she just was so unaware to that. She was so unaware to the reason I'm crying is because I'm having this intense contraction and your hand is inside me, basically. It was awful, considering as well I didn't want any examinations and I had been told that I had to have at least one when the midwife first got there. I now know that that is completely wrong and I did not have to have any examinations, but I had been told you have to have one when the midwife gets there. Next time, I'm not having them. Because I birthed my baby, that was the only examination I had, and I gave birth to my baby. So it didn't matter, did it? So from this examination, my midwife determined that I had at least 10 hours of labour left and that she was going to leave. She was like, right, so she's only 3 centimetres and she's got at least 10 hours before this baby's born. I'm going to go. Can you call me when it becomes unbearable for her? At this point, my auntie was like, yeah, go. My auntie knew she was annoying me. She was annoying my auntie. And my auntie was just like, we're better off like just doing it, me, her and Ben, until it becomes unbearable. She needs pain relief. So, okay, she went. So she must have left. Just gone 10 o'clock maybe. It might have been just gone 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30. So she left and we carried on labouring, me, Ben and Lou. We were dancing around in the living room. This is like my favourite part of like my labour, was I was like, every time I had a contraction, Ben's so much taller than me, so I would put my arms around his shoulders like this and like hang off of him a bit. And between contractions I was like slow dancing with him to the music kind of in the living room. So I was like swaying my hips, arms around his shoulders, and we were listening to like really nice music, and it was just so lovely, like it was so nice. After a while I decided that I wanted to come upstairs and I wanted to get in the bath. All through my pregnancy I'd known that I wanted a home birth, but I decided I didn't want a pool. If I wanted water, our house isn't really big enough for a pool anyway, but I couldn't be bothered with faffing about of filling it up, emptying it, all that stuff. So I thought, if I want water, I'll get in my bath. And that's what I did. At one point I was like, right, I want to go and get in the bath for a bit. So we came upstairs and I got in the bath and I laboured in the bath for a while. And then I got out. I was like, oh no, I'm a bit fed up of this. I want to get out. I want to go lay on my bed. At one point I kneeled next to my bed and had my arms on my head on my bed. At one point I laid on my bed with my head up at the headboard resting. At one point I was kneeled in front of this chair, which is usually like in the corner here. I was kneeled in front of this chair with my head on this chair. I just like moved around my bedroom, laboured for a while in the bedroom. I do remember quite a bit of that, but it is blurry. My dream of my labour was that my auntie was going to take pictures and videos of the whole labour, and that was like one of the main reasons she was there. But because of the way things played out, she didn't end up doing any of that. She was just there for me the whole time. Ben was there for me the whole time. Nobody got any pictures or video, which is like the most devastating part to me, is that I have no documentation of Delilah being born. Obviously it doesn't matter, and she's here and she's healthy and she's safe and I remember it, but it just makes me so sad that I didn't feel like I experienced my labour. I wanted to be able to watch back on it. I wanted to be able to watch back on what happened, and I don't feel like I can't do that now, and I can't ever see it as anything other than a bit of a painful blur. And while it was a positive experience, I'd love to be able to watch it from like an outsider. So Delilah's woke up and she's probably going to sit with me for the rest of this video. So if you see her joining us, that's why. Hopefully she'll just sit and cuddle for a bit. So now I need to remember where I was. We're in the bedroom and we are labouring in the bedroom. And there came a point where very instinctively I was like, I need to get back in the water. I didn't have time, but I knew, I was like, right, in between contractions, they're coming quite fast now. Next contraction, when it finishes, I need to get up, I need to get quickly into that bathroom, into the water before I get another one. I wasn't communicating very well at this point, I just thought this in my head. So to Ben and Lou, this looked crazy, because all of a sudden I just got up and ran to the bathroom and like dived in my bath, and I was like, I needed to get in the bath, and I was like, okay. The bath was so much better the second time around because the water had cooled down a bit, so it was like cool, it was refreshing, and I was just like, oh. And I don't have a clue what time this was. By the way, like this point I've lost touch of like any time. But I got in the bath and I laboured in the bath and I then laboured in the bath for basically the rest of my labour. I was just in the bath, Ben and Lou were there with me, I kept having sips of Lucozade, and I remember saying, I don't think it was very long after I got in the bath, I was like, I'm pushing and I can't not. And Lou was like, you're not pushing, it's just the baby weighing, like moving down, it's a lot of pressure, you're not pushing, don't worry, you're not pushing. And I was like, no, I need to push, and I'm trying not to push, and I can't not push. And everyone, well, Lou was like, no, it's fine, don't worry. But I was really worried because I had heard stories that if you push on an undilated cervix, you can cause your baby to be in distress and you can cause issues. Whereas we had no one monitoring her heartbeat, we had no one monitoring anything, so I was terrified of pushing and causing any problems to myself or the baby. So I was trying so hard not to push because I was like, I can't be ready to push yet, I can't be 10 centimetres, I can't be ready to push. That midwife told me I had 10 hours left and it's been only a couple of hours. So I was trying so hard not to push for ages, for so long. It was the hardest thing ever. I doubt anyone else watching maybe has been in that position, but it's like the hardest thing to describe, and it was the hardest part of my labour, like hands down. It got to a point at about 1:30 in the morning. It got to a point where I was like, okay, this is becoming unbearable now. Get that midwife here. I need some pain relief. So straight away, Ben, I can't even remember if it was Ben or Lou. I think it was Ben got on the phone to the midwife and was like, right, she's saying it's unbearable now. Can you come? And this was labour ward, so we had to ring labour ward, and labour ward said they'd ring the midwife. So I'm like, yeah, we'll ring the midwife and we'll get her to come. Bearing in mind, this midwife has told us by the time when we call her, she's going to take an hour to get to us. So she's going to have to go from here to Coventry, which is half an hour, to pick up the things that she already had with her earlier but apparently couldn't keep with her. So she had to drive from here to Coventry and then to Coventry back, which was going to take her an hour to get to us after we called her. At this point, like, as a labouring woman, when I decided I needed her now. Like, I was like, oh no, now she's going to take an hour and I like want her now. I can't do this for another hour on my own without any pain relief. Spoiler alert, I could and I did. So they rang her, they were like, oh yeah, we'll call her. About 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, I was like, where is this midwife? I need her now. Where is she? So Ben and Lou were like, right, we're going to ring the midwife back. Lou said to me, she was like, Layla, we need a plan now. If the midwife is on her way, brilliant. If the midwife is not on her way, shall we go into hospital and get you some pain relief? Because at that point, it would be quicker for us to drive to hospital. This was the last thing I wanted. I was like, no, don't want to do that, But I need something now. This is getting hard. And I was like, what if I haven't even like progressed at all? Like, what if I haven't dilated anymore? What if I'm still 3-4 centimetres? Like, at this point, everything was going through my head. They rang back the midwife, or the labour unit, and said, do you know who the midwife is? And they were like, oh, well, we don't know, we've rang her. So we're like, well, she could still be at home getting dressed, getting out of bed. We don't have a clue where she is at this point, and we can't find out. Ben at this point is sick of seeing me in pain, and he's like, Layla, I want to get you to hospital. I want to get you some pain relief. Come on now, like, you've done well, but maybe a home birth just isn't going to happen for us. And I was heartbroken, and I was like, I can't, what are you doing? I was totally heartbroken. Like, home birth is what I'd had my mind set on forever. I had, through my pregnancy, had low iron, and they told me if I couldn't get my iron up, I wouldn't be able to have a home birth. and I drank kale and spinach smoothies every day to just get this was my dream. But at this point I was like, no, I need some help. And I agreed to go into hospital. So it took a little while for Ben and Lou to get me out, but like my contractions are coming thick and fast at this point, and I'm having like a really strong contraction and then a mild contraction and then a strong contraction. I'm not having a break between them. I'm having like one after another contractions at this point. And so we get up out of the bath, and when I didn't see this bit, I didn't acknowledge, I don't remember this bit, but apparently as I stood up out the bath, a bit of blood trickled down my leg and my auntie started to panic. She did an amazing job at not letting on to me that she was panicking, but she started to panic and was a bit like, oh is she starting to hemorrhage? So really calmly my auntie was like, right Layla, before we get you in the car and get you dressed and we get you out the house, can I check you? Can you lay on the bed and can I have a little look, see if I can see anything going on? And I was like, yeah, go for it. I did not care at this point. So I laid on the bed and my auntie went, oh, Layla, I can see your baby's head. Oh, I'm getting emotional again. She was like, I can see your baby's head and you can push now. And the relief of being told you can push when I had been trying not to push for so long, it was the best feeling ever, and I feel like the pain melted away in that moment. I don't remember any more pain from that point onwards. I don't remember it. There must have been some there, but I can't remember being in pain this point onwards. Ben got straight on the phone to the ambulance, and this was like a really worrying time for him. He was stressed. It wasn't how he imagined it. It wasn't how any of us imagined it. I was overwhelmed in getting this baby out. And at this point, didn't even cross my mind anything could go wrong. I was just like, I need to get this baby out. I was pushing with everything I had. I was getting this baby out. My auntie did an amazing job at delivering my baby. She was down the business end, trying to make sure nothing went wrong, making sure that it didn't push the baby out too far so I didn't tear. She was absolutely amazing. Ben's on the phone to the ambulance there, from what I gather, were being pretty useless. But it took them 25 minutes to get here. So by the time the ambulance got here, 25 minutes later, Delilah's head had been born, and very shortly after they got here, the rest of her was born. But I remember at one point, it was about, it must have been about 2 o'clock, 10 past 2. This is in the morning now, because I got out of the bath, in case you didn't know, at about 1:30. It must have been about 1:30, 1:45. I got out of the bath and laid on the bed. So I'm now pushing, trying to get this baby out. So it was like 1:45. No, 1:45. I got in the bedroom and I started pushing with my wife. Ben's on the phone to the ambulance. And the ambulance get here after her head's born. But I remember Lou saying at about 10 past 2, she's like, Layla, you are going to have your baby by 3 o'clock. And I remember looking at the clock and thinking, that's an hour away. Like, I am not doing this for another hour. And like, are you joking? And I know she had said it to reassure me. It was the most unreassuring thing I'd heard. I was like, no, I want to have this baby now. I am getting this baby out now. Apparently at one point I turned around to Lou and I was like, Lou, get this baby out of me right now. Like really stern, like that, like she could do anything. Like I was the one that had to do this. So anyway, that went on. The ambulance turned up and her head was born. Ben turned around to the ambulance. They just stood around watching and he's like, are you going to help then? Are you going to deliver the baby? And they were like, no, pointed at my auntie, and I'm like, she looks like she knows what she's doing. We've never delivered a baby before. They just come out, don't they? Yeah, well, I wish. Like, no. So anyway, they stood there and watched as my auntie delivered my baby. She was born at 2:33 in the morning. So like an hour after I'd met my midwife saying it was unbearable, and definitely not 10 hours after we'd first rang her. And yeah, it was amazing. The first thing I said was, "I've waited my whole life for you." It was like really cheesy, but I just remember it so clear. And luckily I didn't see, as I was like leaning on my headboard on like, not all fours, but like my knees, and I was leaning on my headboard when she was born. So she came out like behind me. And apparently when she came out, her cord wasn't around her neck, but it was like over her shoulders, which meant they kind of had to like unhook it before, and she got stuck at like the belly button. I'm like demonstrating on her, I don't even know if you can see, but she got stuck at like her belly button, and they had to like unhook her cord so she could come out. But when she came out, apparently she was quite like blue and like grey. I didn't see, but they gave her a good rub down and she was okay. But I never remember her like crying. I remember her like but I don't remember her crying. She came out with this like full head of hair, which I'd been told she was bald, which was crazy because I was convinced all the way from her pregnancy she was going to have loads of hair. Me and Ben both had loads of hair when we were born, so I was right. And yeah, it was just so amazing. They gave her to me after she'd been rubbed down and stuff, and she started to cry a little bit. And we just laid there. The paramedics took a few pictures, and then they went and made cups of tea in my kitchen, basically. The midwife turned up about 40 minutes after Delilah was... I'm gonna make this quick. I'm nearly finished anyway. So midwives turned up about 40 minutes after she was born. Basically all the midwives and paramedics did was go in my kitchen and make themselves cups of tea, and they left the whole bowl of washing up for me. And no one at any time was like, "Oh, do you want help off the bed? Do you want help getting dressed?" No, we were left to it. They just went and had cups of tea. In fact, at one point they had Ben, like my partner just had a baby, they had him making them all cups of tea in the kitchen. Like, it was just like, you couldn't make it up. It was ridiculous. But anyway, we had to, in the end, unfortunately, transfer to hospital as Delilah had meconium. So she had pooed on her way out. Not surprised, she was probably pretty stressed, like I was pretty stressed. But so because of that, we had to transfer to hospital just to have her monitored for 12 hours to make sure there was no sign of infection and stuff. So we transferred to hospital about, I think it was about 4 o'clock in the morning in the end, and we got home about 6 o'clock the next evening. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I think I've got all the important things in. The medical team were like totally useless. The midwife was beyond useless. But I would not change a thing. I would like a midwife to have been there, but I would have liked them just like in the corner making sure nothing went wrong. Next time, I know a lot of things. I know I don't need examinations. I know that if my body feels it needs to push, I should probably push. Just go with what I know, and so I feel like I'll be a lot more confident next time in labour. I wouldn't change a thing. It was such a positive experience. It was going to be the most amazing day of my life anyway, but I feel like I got my home birth, I got my natural birth. I did this with no pain relief. I didn't have gas and air, I didn't have anything, which was what I ideally wanted. But I feel like if the gas and air was there, I probably would have had it, so I'm glad it wasn't. It was amazing, and I'm so glad that I was able to have a positive birth and my own positive birth story throughout my whole pregnancy. I was listening and watching positive birth stories, and I thought, I hope that can be me, and it was, and I hope it can be you. I hope if you're watching this looking for positive birth stories because you're pregnant, you can have that. It is possible. Don't let people scare you with, it's horrendous, you feel like you're dying, all of this, because I'm sure there are labours like that. I don't doubt for a minute there are horrific labours that go completely wrong, that are horrifically painful, that are completely unbearable for mothers. But don't think that's the only option. Do not think that's the only way. Believe me, labour and birth can be this amazing, magical experience that you want it to be. You have to go in it with the right frame of mind. You have to go in it saying this is going to be a positive experience, and it was for me, and I just really hope that it can be for any other woman who dreams for that. With that, while I finish my little positive birth story rant, my passionate rant about that, I'm going to change this little one's bum, going to make myself a fresh cup of tea, and I'm going to carry on with my mum day. I hope you enjoyed our first sit down video. I can't wait to carry on doing these. I really got into it. I was nervous when I first sat down in front of this camera, and now I could sit here all day. I've loved hanging out with you guys it's been about an hour. I'm not sure how long it'll be when I edit, but I've been sat here now for an hour. So I've loved hanging out with you for an hour. I've hoped you've loved hanging out with me, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon. I'll see you in the vlogs, and if you don't want to watch the vlogs, I'll see you next Monday. Thank you for all your support, guys. Bye.